All right, we have a lot of breaking news to run through, and I regret to inform you, the situation could get a whole lot worse. There has been a massive cloud of mystery surrounding the simple question of who is currently running Venezuela since Maduro was removed. Donald Trump will say in one breath that the United States is running Venezuela, as in Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio are running the situation. But then Marco Rubio, in a very unclear manner, still seems to be leaning on Maduro's current VP, Delcy Rodriguez, who is handpicked by Maduro, is essentially just going to continue the same dictatorial policy. So in between all of these contradictory statements, the Washington Post reports that the White House is weighing the worst possible person for this position or any position. Donald Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, is being weighed to have a more elevated role in overseeing the post-Maduro operations in Venezuela, according to one person with knowledge of the conversations. The person who is spearheading the most cruel, radical, and reckless policy in the Trump administration is now being weighed. And I want to dig into this more because this is a function of Trump stripping away a lot of the more experienced national security staff around him. But let me just back up a few days. I want to remind you all that right after Maduro was captured, Stephen Miller's wife, Katie Miller, posted a photo of our NATO ally Greenland with the U.S. flag, heavily implying that we have invaded, annexed, taken the territory of Greenland for our own through violent means. And she wrote one word. She said, soon. Again, it's important to point out this is the wife of Stephen Miller, who is reportedly going to be the point person if the White House chooses him. She is making fascistic threats on social media. The leader of Greenland didn't take too kindly to this and had to issue a statement calming down the citizenry of Greenland. Again, this is our NATO ally. We already have U.S. troops in Greenland, not for violent means, but because they are a NATO ally that we are supposed to be able to trust. They're supposed to be able to trust us. But due to Stephen Miller and Katie Miller, the Greenland prime minister had to essentially, the premier of Greenland had to calm down the population by saying, quote, "Let me state this calmly and clearly from the outset. There is neither reason for panic nor concern. The image shared by Katie Miller depicting Greenland wrapped in an American flag changes nothing whatsoever," said the premier of Greenland. "Our country is not for sale, and our future is not decided by social media posts. That said, the image is disrespectful. Relations between nations and people are built on mutual respect and international law, not on symbolic gestures that disregard our status and our rights." The premier then added, quote, "We are a democratic society with self-government, free elections, and strong institutions." Honestly, this is making me sick to my stomach. It's genuinely making me sad that the premier of Greenland had to calm down the population and say, do not panic, we are not being invaded, because Stephen Miller's dumbass wife had to post a meme. That is what Stephen Miller's wife is posting. Amy Siskin points out, if you want to truly get a sense of how last minute the Venezuelan raid was and how much of it was just like a wag the dog operation to cover all of Trump's numerous problems, just know he is now considering installing Stephen Miller as the point person to run the country. This is pure amateur hour stuff. Can I remind you of what Stephen Miller was posting in 2024? Right before the election, he was posting this. And by the way, make sure you drop a like on this video below. It means the world. It helps boost the video in the YouTube algorithm. And if you subscribe to the Adam Mockler feed, you can stay up to date with the most important news. So Stephen Miller then says, on November 1st of 2024, quote, "This isn't complicated. If you vote for Kamala, Liz Cheney becomes defense secretary. We invade a dozen countries. Boys in Michigan are drafted to fight boys in the Middle East. Millions die. We invade Russia. We invade nations in Asia. World War III, nuclear winter." By the way, this is how Stephen Miller talks all of the time. It's the most apocalyptic rhetoric possible, said in the most radical way to inflame tension. So I'm not surprised that his wife gets it from him and says, soon we are going to invade Greenland, is the implication right there. But Stephen Miller said that on November 1st. Since Stephen Miller posted this, says Caroline, the Trump administration has bombed 7 countries and is currently talking about invading 4 more. It's actually 5 more that they're talking about invading. He claims he's ended 7 wars, but Donald Trump over the past 48 hours has been rattling off a list of countries that he'd like to invade in a fascistic manner. This brings us around to this Washington Post article that describes the potential transition of power that includes crazy Stephen Miller. Let me just show you this clip of Stephen Miller, just so we know who we're dealing with here, because the transition of power after Maduro is removed. I mean, first of all, that was illegal. That was reckless, but it's already happened. It's already happened. And the next step, the next 72 hours, it is very important to stop the competing factions in Venezuela from causing absolute chaos, from killing a bunch of people, and from trying to fill this power vacuum. That is what is currently happening. And appointing Stephen Miller as the point person is the farthest thing possible from stopping Venezuela from devolving into chaos.
Restoring the republic look like? I know that's basically the overall goal over this 4-year term for President Trump. You're a big player in that. So what does that mean, and how do you restore the republic?
When President Trump talks about restoring the republic, he means restoring a country in which the fundamental loyalty and allegiance we have is to the American citizen who does everything right. And that's why the system has been such a travesty for so long, is that the people who, they work hard in a job that perhaps is thankless, nobody's appreciating them. They earn enough money, barely, to support their family, to take care of their kids, to take care of their loved ones. They follow every rule, they pay every tax no matter how outrageous. And they look around them, and everybody else that isn't doing it right is getting rewarded. So the scammers and grifters in Washington, D.C. are getting rich. The illegal aliens are getting rich. The criminals are getting away with everything. So this
is a lot of projection here, considering you're serving in an administration with a criminal president. You want to pit us against immigrants and say that they are scamming us. Meanwhile, Trump has started multiple crypto coins based off of family members' names. If Trump coin wasn't worse or bad enough, he started Melania coin. I even think they had like a Barron coin at some point. It's just scam after scam after scam, and Stephen Miller now wants to claim that they are the saviors. Let's read this article from the Washington Post that describes how, quote, having dismantled much of U.S. foreign policy infrastructure since he came to power, Trump now depends on a small number of trusted personnel and business associates to handle core issues such as his peace plan in Gaza, negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, and now Venezuela, none of which are going according to plan. Russia is still bombing the shit out of Ukraine. Israel is still bombing the shit out of Gaza while Hamas is still existing. And Venezuela is not even going through regime change because apparently the same regime is still in power. It's a mess. The National Security Council staff has been gutted, and the administration has yet to nominate an Assistant Secretary of State to handle the Western Hemisphere. The White House is weighing giving Stephen Miller, Trump's deputy White House chief of staff and Homeland Security advisor, a more elevated role in overseeing post-Maduro operations in Venezuela, according to one person with knowledge of the conversations. Miller has been the architect of the administration's anti-immigration and border policy and took a central role in the effort to remove Maduro. He was among the handful of top admin officials flanking the president during the news conference at Trump's Mar-a-Lago club. In Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, who served as vice president under Maduro until his capture, has been recognized by the armed forces as acting president. Rodriguez spoke to Rubio after the Delta Force operation to capture the Venezuelan president and his wife in what Trump described as a friendly conversation. She offered a cautiously conciliatory statement addressing Trump on Sunday evening, but she's also contradicted herself by saying that Maduro is the rightful president and they're going to continue his work. So is it just the same regime? Quote, President Donald Trump, our peoples in our region deserve peace and dialogue, not war, Rodriguez said. Other officials had voiced harder sentiments. Venezuelan Defense Minister Lopez said that it was a, quote, cowardly kidnapping. He ordered the nation's forces to unify in the mission of confronting the imperial aggression, which sounds like, some wartime type of rhetoric coming out of Venezuela. Ben Meiselas points out, in reference to Pete Hegseth, then reposting Donald Trump standing across North America and South America wielding a bat saying the Don Roe Doctrine. Again, Pete Hegseth reposted this on Twitter, and Ben Meiselas points out, the post that's more concerning than that of Stephen Miller's wife, Katie Miller, is the one made by Donald Trump's rapid response that Pete Hegseth then reposted of him holding a club that says Don Roe Doctrine while he's stomping on the entire Western Hemisphere. This administration is drunk for power. They need to seriously get their shit together while Katie Miller is threatening Greenland. We're threatening Cuba. Lindsey Graham is on Air Force One in his southern twang, threatening 6 countries at once. What is going on here? Stop this imperial aggression. I'm going to leave it there. If you appreciate these videos, drop a like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.